What's up, people? This is the Bleav in Saints podcast brought to you by FanDuel. Get in on the World Cup action with FanDuel Sportsbook. France is currently the favorite to lift the cup at the end of the tournament, plus 410 odds. Get in on the World Cup action. Shout out to our friends at FanDuel. Anyway, I am Mario Jerez, Spanish play-by-play voice of the Saints, native New Orleanian. She is my co-host, Erin Summers, seasoned reporter and analyst covering the Saints and the NFL as a whole. And today, we are very happy to welcome our next guest, longtime reporter and analyst covering the entire league. He is Steve Wyche of the NFL Network. Steve, as I told you, you've been on my TV for a long time, man. You do a really good job. Very excited to do this. Thanks for the time.
Well, Mario and Erin, thanks for having me. I love talking Saints with you guys. You know, the 504 is my favorite city on the NFL circuit, so I'm always down to come on.
I'm glad to hear you say that, especially considering the fact that you covered the Falcons for a long time as well. We'll definitely get into that rivalry. We'll definitely talk some Saints football. But before we do, you covered the entire league. You've done so really well for a really long time. There's a lot of storylines going into the NFL this season, whether you talk about Aaron Rodgers' final year in Pittsburgh, teams like the Buffalo Bills trying to finally get over that Super Bowl hump, whether it be down here in New Orleans or anywhere throughout the league. What are you most looking forward to in the National Football League in 2026?
I mean, there's so many different storylines. I mean, you want to see if the Rams can live up to the hype now that they got Myles Garrett. I mean, the roster is loaded, but, I was just with the Seahawks at their mini camp. They aren't breaking a sweat. They're like, okay, fine. You still have to come through us. You've got Patrick Mahomes on the renewed contract. He's got some offensive tools, but can that defense that lost a ton of players get them back to even challenge Denver or the Chargers? So there's so many different storylines. I mean, how many of these rookies are going to step in and play well? I mean, what's going to happen with Fernando Mendoza and the Kirk Cousins quarterback battle? What's going to happen with the quarterback battle in Cleveland? So training camp to me is like the exciting part because that's kind of the first chapter and opening the book on what really the narrative of the season is going to look like. Again, minus potential injuries that could come up.
When you look at the Saints, though, they don't have a lot of change. They added a few rookies. They added some key pieces in free agency. But how important is the consistency that they have going into this year with their coaching staff going to be and knowing who their quarterback is?
Yeah, Erin, you nailed it. I think the consistency with the coaching staff, right? Knowing what Brandon Staley wants to do, because you see his defenses in the second year really turn that corner. It's a very complex system he tries to install. So the fact that there's consistency with most of the personnel there, you add a guy like Caden Ellis, who's a super stud, to that framework of what they've got, that's good. Now, offensively, some changes there, but to me, it all depends on Tyler Shough. If he continues to build, we're going to hear there's film on him. So what? I mean, offenses evolve. Seriously, offenses evolve. Quarterbacks evolve. He didn't start the full season. So, there's film on him, and there's going to be tendencies that we saw Kellen Moore do in Dallas, that we saw Kellen Moore do in Philadelphia. So what? Like, if Tyler Shough continues to evolve, there is no reason with this offensive line, with adding Travis Etienne to that backfield with Alvin Kamara, that the Saints can't challenge for the NFC South, which is wide open. We know the best record there was 8-9 last year. So it's absolutely wide open for the Saints to get it going.
Trying to at least get back into postseason. Saints haven't been since 2020, which, as you know, was Drew Brees' final season. And since then, it's been a myriad of quarterbacks, whether you talk about Jameis Winston, Taysom Hill, the list goes on. But now enter Tyler Shough. And like you said, the continuity is one of the most exciting things. You're not recycling old quarterbacks. You're developing a player in-house, and obviously a really good start with his rookie year, winning record. That's nothing to sneeze at in the NFL, and you would think the roster is going to be better this year, Steve, but just looking at his rookie season, what impressed you the most when watching Tyler Shough?
Composure. I mean, it's really, really hard. We know he's talented, right? We know he's got the big arm. We know he's got the ability to run a little bit, right? But just the composure, because teams with rookies especially, they're going to throw stuff at him. And I know the offensive line was a little nicked up. They had some instability with some of the things that they were trying to do. But the fact that he just kind of stood in the face of stuff and delivered, I think that's a huge sign. Again, the talent is there. Now he's going to understand opposing personnel. He's going to be watching tape all off season of upcoming defensive coordinators and what they like to do. So he's going to understand some of the defensive tendencies. of some of these guys, especially within the division where, you had coaching changes, in Atlanta, but for the most part, things are staying the same. So that's going to help him improve it all. But I think the composure and now the experience part of it's got to really come into play because he's got some weapons out wide. He's got some weapons at tight end. He's got two really explosive, dynamic, versatile type running backs. Again, I think this defense is going to be good. And if they can keep the point totals down, you're not necessarily going to have to ask a lot of Tyler Shough, but he is going to have to make plays. And again, the composure element of it, I think, is significant for him.
When you look at what Tyler was able to do at the end of the season with who he had on the field, it was a majority of backups because of the injuries that the Saints had faced. With the weapons that you've said that they've added, they added Jordan Tyson at wide receiver,
Yep.
Travis Etienne, and Noah Fant as a tight end. What is the ceiling for this offense? How much better can they be here in year two?
Well, I mean, you look at what Kellen Moore has done, right? He's had mobile quarterbacks. He's had, Jalen Hurts. He's had Dak Prescott. He's got guys who can do stuff. But everything is set up off the run game, right? So if you get the good play action stuff going in that regard, which there's no reason why they shouldn't be able to, well, then the world is theirs. You get play action, all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're hitting shots downfield. They do a lot of layered routes, an over-under type of route. It's there. And then you get a tight end. You get, the crossing routes that can really catch defenses and things. So Kellen Moore, I think, is a very, very creative offensive mind. And now he gets to open up the playbook a little bit and do some things that will factor into what he did in Philadelphia and what he did in Dallas.
As it should, and so many people are talking about the offense, a lot of excitement, but defensively, the collective work that Brandon Staley was able to do last year, I think, really impressive. And now you got some younger guys with more snaps, more experience, and you have some veteran guys trying to kind of reach the next level. And with that, I want to ask you about Chase Young. What's kind of the national perception of Chase coming off a 10-sack season with the Saints? Looks like he's finally getting healthy in New Orleans, because we know when he's healthy, he's one of the better defensive ends in the league, and I think that was on display last year. Do you think he's hit his ceiling as an NFL player? Do you think he could be all pro caliber guy in New Orleans?
He definitely hasn't hit his ceiling. As you mentioned, he had some injury situations. He's played in a myriad of schemes. But Brandon Staley, who is someone I hold in the highest of regards, I think he is a brilliant defensive coordinator. Look what he's done with his edge rushers, no matter where he's been. He's a former outside linebacker guy coming up under Vic Fangio, right? So Chase Young is playing under the guy who can really get his career going. And Brandon loves to stack. Like most teams will have an edge rusher on the left, an edge rusher on the right. He'll put both of them on one side. He'll put three edge rushers, on the field at the same time in different alignments. So there's different things that he can do on the front side to really make someone like Chase Young shine. The key to a Brandon Staley defense, though, is what happens in the secondary, right? They love to have what he calls that star player, that hybrid nickel safety, nickel corner. It doesn't have to be one guy, but in that position, if that player can occupy the receiving running back or the receiving tight end up front, they're going to put some smoke on you. So I think Chase Young, when you talk about national perception, we've been waiting. And last year, he pushed the door open. If he follows that up with another year, he's going to be one of those stories like we hear about the quarterbacks like Baker Mayfield. Like, wow, all it took was the right scheme and the right system and the right confidence level for him to really break through and meet the talent.
On the other side, we can talk about another edge, maybe Cam Jordan. Apparently, he is meeting with the team today, Tuesday, per his podcast last night with Teron Armstead. Seems like they're finally going to have those real conversations and potentially get on the same page here where Jordan remains a Saint. How unique has Cam Jordan been for this New Orleans Saints team? And how important is it for maybe a leader like him to remain with the team to the end?
Well, when it comes to Cam Jordan, I think he's a Pro Football Hall of Famer. I remember when he was drafted as a 3-4 defensive end, which is kind of like your typical run stopper defensive end who sets up other guys to get sacks. And next thing you know, he's racking up Hall of Fame sack totals. Well, I think he's right around 130 right now, which is kind of like that threshold to get into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Coming off of 10 and a half sacks is significant. Now, I've spoken to Cam this offseason. He wants to play, and he wants to play for the Saints. They just have not been able to come to terms on the money because, I think he feels they want him to be a rotational guy. He still feels like he's an every down player. But I think he's willing, and I think that's the conversation now is like, hey, look, maybe we'll bring up the dollars, but you still have to accept the role. And that's, it's always a tough thing for someone who's been so successful to maybe be a rotational guy instead of the guy. But, look, if he wants to play and he wants to, retire with the New Orleans Saints, we'll see if they can come with a meeting of the minds, whether they add some incentives onto things and things like that. But, just for him to be part of the culture, to retire a Saint, like Drew Brees, like Marcus Colston, like some of the guys that he played with for so long, I think would really mean a lot.
Absolute legend, getting up there in the all-time sack list. And you could say the same about Alvin Kamara in New Orleans, all-time touchdown leader, has his skins on the wall. He's been in a somewhat similar situation as Cam, although he's under contract. How do you see him fitting in if he is back with the Saints with Travis Etienne? And how much good football do you think Alvin Kamara still has left to give?
I think he still has some good football left in him. And rotating with Etienne, again, with the way Kellen Moore likes to play with the play action, the short passing game, we know they both can run. To get to Etienne, and I'm going to call him Etienne because he said that's what they called him and not the Etienne.
Yeah.
That's what he said. That's what he said.
To get to the Etienne, I mean, people think he's kind of a gimmick back. Look at his carries. Like, look at his workload. He is an every down running back. And if they can find ways to rotate them with personnel groupings and this and that, they both can go off this year. It's going to drive all the fantasy players crazy who hated playing Kamara when Sean Payton coached him because he was rotating him in so much. But I think this is something that can open up the offense. And hell, why not put them both out there at the same time? Right? Then what are you going to do? You're going to have a nickel back and a linebacker. You can read which one of those guys is going to be out there, and then you've got advantages. So I think he's got plenty of football left in him. And I think Kellen Moore will find ways to use him properly.
There's been a lot of conversation about using multiple tight end personnel groupings as well for that same reason, because the defense just can't line up successfully against that and know who to block. It's going to be interesting to see the different combinations. You mentioned the star position earlier.
Yep.
And it seems like Jonas Sanker, the second-year player, he came up playing 8-man football and went in, was successful in college, and now he has potentially taken over a position he's never played before. But the coaching staff is really excited about what he can do and his physical attributes and why he fits in that role. How key is his success going to be in that role for the defense?
Well, I mean, it's significant when you look at look at the stars who Brandon Staley's had. Now he's had Hall of Fame type players. He's had Jalen Ramsey, he's had Derwin James, but he wants to be able to match up because now you're seeing this. This is an NFL trend. Everybody is trying to get that Jalen Ramsey, that Derwin James, that Nick Eamon-Warry because they call what they got an overhang defender. They can line up as an outside linebacker on the line of scrimmage, off the line of scrimmage, in the secondary. They support the run. They can dictate to teams because of the blitzing potential, because of the potential to cover, especially in the intermediate routes, but also be a third linebacker as to where you never have to sub out personnel. So again, Sanker's ability to show up so they can stay in the same 11. They don't have to sub in nickel packages and things like that. That's key. I mean, again, you look what Brandon Staley does. That is the position where Brandon Staley is going to be known for building his resume from because he's done such a good job highlighting players who play that position, but also building stonewall defenses because of that position.
Man, I got to say, I just love the modernness of the Saints coaching staff. It seems like they're just getting more with the times, whether it be with the star position on
They
defense, more
better.
tight ends and the personnel. Yeah, more tight ends on offense. It's good to see. And speaking of the growth in the NFL, the growth of the Saints, you've seen it all, Steve. You've covered the league, and I wanted to ask you about rivalries in the NFL and
Mhm.
where you think the Saints-Falcons rivalry ranks, because I've been to a lot of games, broadcasted games in the Superdome, broadcasted games in Atlanta, and that's definitely a rivalry. There's definitely some hate between those two fan bases. So, covering the league as long as you have, what would you say are the best rivalries in the league, and where do you think that one ranks?
Well, look, the Saints Falcons rivalry is a regional rivalry. Like when people in the NFL globally think of rivalries, that one doesn't necessarily hit the radar. But here it goes back. I think both teams were founded right around 1966, right around that time.
Mm-hmm.
And they were terrible forever. So they always had to kind of battle. So who wouldn't be worst? But then you look at the geography of it, right? Basically between New Orleans and DC, the Atlanta Falcons and Miami Dolphins were the only NFL teams in that region forever. That's why the SEC and college football and all that is so huge. So again, the regional aspect of it is significant, but the hate is legitimate. It is cities, there's a respect with the ownership groups, but organizationally, there's not really love there. Like you can't say one thing about one team and expect the other team to be like, okay, yeah, they did a great job with it. They're not going to give the other ones credit. I mean, your big rival, they're just not going to happen. I mean, your big rivalries, of course, are Packers, Bears, Steelers, Ravens. You know, they're gonna talk about some of those things. You're seeing, even though they're non-divisional, you know, you've got the Bills and Chiefs rivalry, you know, really perking up. It's not good with the Rams and the 49ers. So those are some of the more global rivalries. But we know, you know, me covering the Falcons, me being in New Orleans all the time, that Saints Falcons rivalry is ugly. Ugly.
And it is going to be on the national stage this year because it's the
Yep.
Monday night game. It's going to be nice for the Saints to get back in prime time, not only there, but then, of course, they're getting to play overseas in Paris as well. That game, that Monday night game, how much hoopla is going to be around that game? How heightened is it going to be because of it is the 1 week post anniversary of the return to the dome and everything that goes into it?
Yeah, I mean it's the 20-year anniversary of, you know, the Steve Gleason U2 comeback game, of which I was there. I've
Mm.
covered major heavyweight fights with Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield. I've covered NBA championships. I was Game 6 when Jordan hits the shot over Brian Russell in Utah for the Bulls to win, you know, another title. I've been to many Super Bowls. I have never ever felt, I won't even say experience, felt energy like I felt in the Superdome from pregame through kickoff. That when that punt block happened, I
Yeah.
mean, I've never, so that whole element of it is going to be significant. And I think it's the week 4 of the season. I think it's fairly early. So hopefully both teams have their footing by then. You know, they know who their quarterbacks are, their offenses and defenses are flowing. So they can show the nations that they've got talented young players. They've got dynamic players they want to see. And that one of these teams could emerge as a playoff team. Forget to, you know, all the hoopla and all that stuff that's going to come with that game. Let's see if we can see the groundwork of one of these teams that comes out of nowhere like the Patriots did last season.
You broke that down so excellently, man. That's why you do what you do and have done it for such a long time. Last question from me here. The name of the show is Bleav in Saints, and we've been asking every single guest at the end of these interviews, do you believe in the Saints? Do you think they make it back to the playoffs in 2026?
I'm going to hedge, and I hate saying this. I believe in the Saints just because I think Kellen Moore, again, my faith in that coaching staff is excellent. I already told you how I feel about Brandon Staley.
Mhm.
I think he's one of the best defensive coordinators of this era. I think he's fantastic. Um, I just hedge on any team in the NFC South. This is just not the Saints, just because of how they have been the past couple of years. But I do think the Saints and the Falcons are the two teams that if they can find their identities early, right? If they know who they are we a running offense? Are we a passing offense? Are we an aggressive defense? Are we a read and react type? If we can find out who we are early, they've got the talent, if they can stay healthy, to absolutely make them Bleav worthy to not only get to the playoffs, but to be a scary team in the playoffs.
It's going to be a lot of fun to see how this shakes out because I think there is potential, as always, for anyone to win the division. I want to say congratulations to you on being inducted into the Black College Football Hall of Fame. I know you always have a lot of stuff going on now, the merger between NFL Network and ESPN. So what are you up to the next few months?
Well, the next few months is going to be kind of waiting to see how this whole merger is going to take place. I mean, look, ESPN has done the NFL for a long time and have done it incredibly well. And now they're inviting us to the cookout, so to speak. But where do we sit, right? We have to figure out where we sit, who we eat with. And, you know, I'm excited about it because they're excited about it, right? They want to build back NFL Network. We're going to run in parallel universes like the SEC Network and ESPN. So it's going to be parallel universes. But I think opportunity will be there for us to evolve, not only in game coverage and studio coverage, but original content programming. You know, the NFL Network has really cut back with a lot of its features and storytelling for years. Now ESPN, through a lot of its outlets, gives us the opportunity to do that. So in terms of what I'm doing, I'm actually going, you know, as Mario said, on vacation to the place where the favored team to win the World Cup resides, and that is in France. I'm going to go over there for a little bit before we get going for training camp. So that's the big thing.
Hey, good for you.
Good deal, man. Well, hey, congratulations on all of that. Congratulations on your induction into the Black College Football Hall of Fame. Clearly, you have a lot of good stuff going on, man. And as I give you the opportunity for any final thoughts, I want to say thank you so much for the time. Keep up the great work, and we hope to talk to you soon again, my friend.
Well, you guys keep up the great work. Merci beaucoup. Au revoir.
Merci. Thank you so much, Steve. On the way out, do want to say that France may be the betting favorite, but by our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook, you could also get the USA to win the cup at 40-1 odds. They looked really good in their first game. Might be worth a sprinkle there. Shout out to our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. And don't forget to hit subscribe, leave us a 5-star rating, and write a review. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcast. For Erin Summers and Steve Wyche, I'm Mario Jerez saying thank you for watching or listening to Bleav in Saints. We'll talk to y'all soon. Who dat?